G'day folks, Rod from iWaterFilter here today, and I'm very excited today because we're here to have a chat to Dr. Dingle, and he's an amazing man. He's got a huge amount of knowledge, and it's a pity there's a few more people on the planet like him. So yeah, first up, just thanks for spending some time with us today. We very, very much appreciate yourself. We're into water, as you know, so our topic today is going to be water and gut health. Yep. We had a little chat on that, so if you'd like to just tell the people a little bit about yourself, if you like, to get us rolling.
A long time ago I used to be a teacher. I travelled, I came back, became a born-again student, and I did my second degree in environmental science. I went on to do honours all about pesticide exposure in the home, so my first insight into our exposure to toxic chemicals. And I was just blown out of the water how little we didn't know. I then went on to do my PhD all about toxins in the home, primarily a chemical called formaldehyde, but all its cousins and relatives and so on. And then we ran a research team for another 10 years at university, looking at all the aspects of the domestic environment and exposure to all of the toxins. So all the way through the air, through the food, through the water, through, basically every way we could think of, we were just looking at and building. I started getting involved then into general health and then gut health. It's not just the food and the water and all those things, but it's how your body reacts with it. It's not the chemicals in the air, but how they react with your body, your gut microbiome. I started to put together all my thoughts and ideas over the last 30 odd years, literally, to come to the conclusion that we need to look at every aspect of the things that we come in contact with: the air, our clothing, the food, the water, all of those things, to understand, why we are so sick today.
We've certainly got some issues, there's no doubt about that, and gut health is a big problem that we've got, understand.
And the side of, and on the other side of that is, what can you do to improve that? What can you do to turn it around? And the first thing for me is always about education. I'm a scientist. I love reading scientific journals. People go, wow, get a life, Peter, will you get a life? But I love reading them because they're like puzzles. You read 3 or 4 on that area, 3 or 4 on that area, 3 or 4 on that area, and you go, wow, that's where they're all linked together. And then my second passion is communicating that with the public so they can then take action to do something about their health. Because look, there is no doubt the single biggest issue confronting Australia one way or another, yes, global warming, but it's also our health linked in with that.
Yes.
And our health is the single biggest thing that people need to be able to address and do. We did surveys decades ago of 1,000 people, and we always found that people were able to put off the environment and they were able to put off their health. At the end of the day, it's, look, we've got all the time in the world to look after our health. It just has to be a priority. And that's what I love getting across to people. Your health is your priority. You cannot do anything without good health.
Another thing that comes to mind is it's no good being the richest man in the cemetery. I do see some of these people just working, they're working and working, and they should just take a breather. And
there's nobody has gone to the grave wishing they'd put more hours into the office, or they'd worked a little bit harder, or maybe they'd even written another scientific journal.
Obviously we're into water, and the big question and the biggest topic that we're asked for and the problem to solve is probably chlorine in the water. You've come across chlorine issues, and anything on chlorine pops off the top?
Look, absolutely, because when we started doing our work just in the home environment, chlorine was a gas that we obviously had to look at in the air, and one of the major sources, and people don't realise this, is via the shower.
Yep. Via the
shower, because when you're drinking a couple of litres a day. But coming back to the shower, you might be in that shower and you're really stressed, you come home from work, you're sitting there for 5 or 10 minutes or stand there for 5 or 10 minutes and you're breathing litres and litres and litres of air, which is rich in chlorine, because chlorine forms a gas in hot water and under pressure, which is what a shower is.
Brilliant.
Almost like a perfect little gas chamber. So our biggest source of chlorine is probably coming, for most people, from the shower.
Right.
And then secondary from what we drink, and that goes in the food and other things. We've known about this for 50, 60 years.
Right.
It's been questioned. Now, I do want to take one step back though and say chlorine added to water is essential.
Yes.
Because if we didn't, we'd have all this waterborne disease.
Yeah.
And we'd have and foodborne disease and so on. We have a lot of people, like what happens in third world countries when floods or there's a tsunami goes through, and the biggest thing is getting water bottles or water to them urgently.
Right.
So getting clean water, and chlorine is the simplest single way to do it en masse. It's cost effective, and governments look at that in the end. However, chlorine in water also poses health problems longer term.
Right, yes.
And when you consider something like I described, the shower and or drinking water, and you're doing it every single day, from before you're born, what you're getting from mum and so on, right through to infanthood, breast milk, right through to young kids, to us as adults, that's a long time that we're exposed to a low level of toxin.
Right.
And all the studies overwhelmingly show, first of all, that the chlorine, which is a very interactive molecule.
Yes.
It's what you would call a free radical kind of. Well, most people would know that. It's an oxidizing agent.
Yep.
And that's why it kills the bacteria.
Right.
It kills them, breaks them down, and so on.
Yep.
In the process of doing that, it interacts with anything else is in there.
Yes.
And can produce a whole raft of hundreds of potentially toxic chemicals. You'd look at that list, you go, wow, what's that in? You go, water.
Yeah,
and that's coming from the interaction of the chlorine with the other molecules and the other atoms and so on, other chemicals in the water to produce that. And on that side, we know from, again, for the last 50 years, that these chlorinated byproducts contribute to long-term chemical exposure and illness. And that goes right through from birth defects, right through up to your cancers and those, but also long-term in terms of causing damage to your organ systems and leading to an increase in the risk of heart attacks and strokes. And all those. In a way, you could look at it and go, wow, they are linked to so many of these health conditions. Where do we start?
Right. I note, because I've watched other doctors in YouTube videos, and I note one doctor in particular, and he says when you have a shower and the water goes over 25 degrees, when you hop out of the shower and you're feeling a bit dizzy, it's not because you've had a nice shower in winter, it's because you're half dead. And I have trouble getting people to understand that, but I appreciate it, and we can look back and listen now.
Well, look, you're breathing that in.
Yes.
And that it's a volatile chemical, which means that it likes moving around a lot and fast.
Right.
And so it easily absorbed into the lungs, easily goes in, but even in the lungs, we all have everyone's heard about the microbiome and you've got a lung microbiome. Of course, you're breathing in lots of chlorine, and therefore you're getting that in there.
Destroying, damaging, right.
And no matter what,
whether
it's a little bit or a lot, you're doing some damage.
Right. Yep.
You're doing some damage.
The bottom line, we need to get the chlorine out.
Yeah, we do. So we need it in the water. In the mass system, but we need to take it out before we consume it.
Beautiful, well done, thank you. That's a good one. The other one, I guess, that we get asked a lot as well is fluoride.
Fluoride for me is the greatest stupidity. I cannot for the life of me understand fluoride. First of all, if it does work, if it does improve reduce the risk of dental decay and periodontal diseases of the mouth and teeth and all that area there, then it's incredibly small. Right. If it does. Okay. What we do know is fluoride is a toxin. Fluoride causes high blood pressure. Right. Now, a little known fact, unless you go into the journals and you're a bit of a journal sicko like me, but going in there and it causes high blood pressure, but all of these other conditions. Now, here is the stupidity of it. What we do know is that there are kind of two factors that are interrelated. Sugars and processed foods cause tooth decay. Right. They bring that about by creating an acid mouth. Literally, your saliva is acid. Because it's a long lecture, but it produces the acidity, and your pH in your mouth is probably 5 or 6 when it should be 7 or 7.2. So it should be neutral. And that acidity in your mouth causes the bacteria to grow,
Right.
and the bacteria then munch on whatever is there, including your teeth and dental enamel and so on, and your gums, and you end up with all these diseases. So we say, okay, we know what causes it. Food and sugary drinks, your soft drinks, and we know it's through the acidosis in the mouth. So why don't we add another acid-forming product called fluoride? If you want to get rid of tooth decay, get rid of the sugary foods. Increase the alkalinity in people's bodies. Check people's saliva. Every time you go to a dentist or a doctor, they should, okay, put a bit of spit in there, check your pH. It's going to cost all of 5 cents each time. Oh, that's very acidic. We'll have to get you eating more bananas and avocados and veggies. But that's not what people want the story as. They want a technological silver bullet that doesn't work. And there are many countries who have introduced it over the, 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago now, and they've removed it now. And they've removed it, 1, because it's ineffective, 2, because it's poisonous, 3, it's not working. It's just not working. And the funniest, again, the oxymoronic aspect of this is, or paradoxical I suppose, is the fact that fluoride is linked with something called fluorosis, which is a mottling and a deterioration of the dental
Yeah, you see the brown
materials,
on the teeth. Yep.
and the little bits and pieces in them. And this is from fluoride.
Right.
Because of God, hold on, that's because they're also adding it to toothpaste. So they've got it in the toothpaste, the mouthwashes, the water, and nobody is looking at that, plus that, plus that, plus that, plus that.
Right. Total.
Oh, hold on, we're looking at one and doing for the studies on that one thing, and no one's looking at that total exposure, which by the way was what my PhD was on. All about the total exposure to a particular chemical or chemicals.
Brilliant.
And looking at all the different aspects of it. So fluoride is just an exercise in stupidity.
Right. So even, I know people who've got fibromyalgia and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And anything in the water that would be creating that, do you feel?
Oh, look, when I say a lot of people, virtually everyone who is living a normal 21st century lifestyle is on the brink of being ill.
Okay.
By the time you get to 30 and 40, and for some people even younger, but certainly you start to feel it at 50 and you go, wow, what is it? Now, you go to the doctors and the doctors say it's aging. Well, my take on it is different. It's something is wrong with the system. Whether it's you're overeating, you've got a weight gain, and that's causing all this oxidation, inflammation, acidosis, or you're eating the wrong food, which is causing that, you're drinking the wrong water. And what people don't realize is, again, it's the accumulation of every single little bit over your life. Now, you may not accumulate, let's say chlorine, or you may, if it becomes a very complex organic molecule, like carbon tetrachloride or something like that you find,
Yes,
but
yes.
You're accumulating the negative effects and the impact it has on your system.
Right.
So it's kind of like every single one is pushing you just further towards that edge.
Right.
And then everyone gets to this age and says, oh, I wonder why me? And I go, it's pretty simple. What have you been doing the last 30 or 50 years of your life?
Yeah.
Whereas, look, we're all vulnerable to things.
Yeah.
And what this is it just makes you more vulnerable. That onslaught of contaminated water, toxic water. Which, by the way, means that the food you're growing is contaminated as well.
Yes.
Because the fluoride in particular goes on the leaf of the veggies, which you then eat, and then again, there's another source.
It's a vicious circle.
Yeah, it is. You're constantly exposed to different sources of it.
Yeah, right. It surprised me that you brought up pH a minute ago. Okay. Yep. I am no doctor. Everybody knows that. But I did used to run aquaculture, marine farms, fish, stuff like that, and everything was relative to pH.
Yep.
But when my mum was sick, and they were doing tests on her for years, and I was pushing to try and find out what was going on, there was never any pH tests done. And that just blew me away. I was like, crikey, in aquaculture, things like that, the first thing we'd be testing for the water is pH, but it's not common in human...
It's just not done. It's just not done. No, look, and don't get me wrong, I didn't know about it because I remember getting a science lecture, I think it was in year 10. I never understood it. I never understood pH. And then I got to university, did another degree, and then another degree, and then I started realizing that every single thing runs on chemistry, and everything in chemistry runs on
pH.
Right.
And the pH speeds up or slows down a chemical reaction.
Right.
And so if you've got the right pH, and it varies. So for example, in our stomach, our pH should be about 1 or 2.
Yep.
In our large intestine, this well, down here, which everyone talks about the microbiota, that should be between 3 and 4.
Right.
In your mouth, it should be 7-ish.
Right.
So there's a reason why it changes,
Yeah.
because it alters the chemistry, and therefore, you ready? The microorganisms that can survive here, here, and here.
Right.
Now, you said about aquaculture. Every gardener knows that.
Right.
I had beautiful blueberry bushes one year in a pot. I went and put them in the ground. They died.
Yeah,
Within a
right,
week, I had 3 beautiful dead blueberry bushes.
Right.
Because they love acidic soils.
Right.
And I live in an alkaline soil region.
Understand.
And I realised that too late to survive,
Okay.
to resuscitate them.
Right.
Everyone isn't. You want the best roses? It's the pH of the soil.
Yeah, right.
The pH of the soil determines the chemical characteristics, how far, but the microorganisms that can live in the soil. And the richer the microorganisms in the soil, and why I'm saying that is because the richer the microorganisms in your gut,
Yep.
the healthier you are.
Yeah. Some very good aquaculturists would have a saying, treat your water body or your pond as you do your gut.
Yeah.
So it's nice to bring it together like that.
Oh, look, as I said, it's all fundamentally linked together through basic biochemistry.
Right. Well,
Nothing works without that. You can't get around it. If you have, say, a high pH, which is alkaline in your stomach,
Yes.
your stomach will take 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 hours to digest it.
Yeah, right.
If you've got a lot of acid in your stomach, then it takes 1 to 2 to 3 hours to digest it.
Right.
The chemical reactions
Gotcha.
are sped up. Then in the large intestine, the right pH
Yep.
then determines the health of the microorganisms, which then speeds up the transit time, and
Right.
so you've got a healthy gut. So you do healthy poos, you've got
Yeah.
a healthy pH in your gut.
Yeah, really. Well done. Because I just recently, as I mentioned before, did a soil symposium course recently to get my veggie garden better and learn more about composting and all that sort of stuff. And that's what we came across in the enzymes, etc., in the soil, and that's what we need: a live, growing garden, not a garden completely knocked down with Roundup, this sort of thing.
Yep.
So,
And enzymes, like you said, enzymes are literally is the chemical reaction, and microbes are just little enzyme factories.
Yeah, right.
So the microbes in the soil are just worms. Worms are enzyme factories. They're just full of enzymes breaking things down, and but the pH determines how well those enzymes are going to work or not.
Yeah, thank you. There's a bit of a saying that I hear at times, and it goes something like, if your body is acidic, then cancer loves an acidic state. So cancer can thrive. If you're on the other side and you've got a highly oxygenated body and it's alkaline, then cancer won't survive in that sort of state. You have any belief in anything like
Look,
that?
that's known as the Warburg effect. From we've kind of known that for about the last 30, 40 years, 80, so 40 years or so.
Unreal.
And basically we know that of cancer, but also of viruses and bacteria. They all rely on a slightly acidic pH.
Yep.
So if the pH in the body is the wrong pH, and for 99% of the people it's too acidic, then these negative things, the viruses, the bacterias, the cancers, and generally the inflammation, oxidation, the stress in the body is a lot higher. And that's why athletes, for example, you want to be a better athlete, you probably drink a little bit of sodium bicarbonate. First thing before you go for a run, because what are you doing when you're running? You're producing lactic acid, which causes the burn. And if you can get a 1 second advantage by drinking some sodium bicarb, which by the way is illegal in the Olympics.
Okay.
You're not allowed to drink sodium bicarb in the Olympics because it's a performance enhancement drug.
Right. I thought it was used for baking cakes.
Baking cakes, and I have it every day.
Yeah, right. Okay. Oh, thank you. That's a nice one, and I'm sure that'll help a lot of people out because that's where we've got to get. We've got to get them on the other side of the line. So far, you've just told us some absolute gems. Now, from that, I'm taking out that we need the chemical in the water to get it to the home. The government does what it's got to do, etc. Once we get it here, we don't have to consume it. So we can use a water filter of some description, shower filters in the shower, whole house filter, whatever it might be. But just staying on the drinking water for the moment. I am getting a little bit scared of the quality of the water that's going to the public as we speak, okay? And we never used to push reverse osmosis water filters much because we were just scared that they broke the structure and that they take too much salts, etc. out of the water. But now that it's getting real bad, the water, I'm thinking that the line's been moved a bit and maybe we should be looking at reverse osmosis water filters again now. Had a quick chat with you at the front and you said yes, but you need to restructure it, so we are looking at grander, etc, etc. But your thoughts on RO systems and
look, I'll be honest, I've never been a big fan on their own. And the simple reason is we don't need water, we need to be hydrated.
Right.
And the water, along with the molecules and even, believe it or not, even the water microbiome. Okay, but the water minerals, and a classic example is calcium in Western Australia where I live, you know, calcium. Calcium and magnesium, but also zinc and selenium and iodine and molybdenum and boron are very low level concentrations, but they're in what's called a colloidal form.
Right.
So they're very small amounts of them, extremely small amounts, but easily absorbed into the body. So when you drink them, they get into your body. Now, when you do reverse osmosis, you remove them all. And I remember this again when I was decades ago, 40 years ago, playing 50 years ago, in fact, playing basketball. And I'd finish a really hot game on a hot day, and I'd drink 2 litres of water, and I felt bloated and thirsty.
Sure.
Because I was drinking water, which had some minerals in it, but it didn't have enough, which is where that whole thing, the research on the original Gatorade came from. The enriching it with a little bit of sugar and a little bit of minerals enabled you to not just take the water in, sorry, not just drink it, but take it in, and in your cells, it draws the water into your cells.
Right.
But you need those minerals to draw the water into your cells. So that's where reverse osmosis, which removes those, has really, you know, they've done damage to the water. So the critical thing is anyone going to use reverse osmosis or any other technique that takes everything out has to be able to put something back in that the body can then use it to literally just be absorbed into the body and then hold on to it.
So from that then, and what you've been talking about, I'm thinking that would it be fair to say that your thoughts nowadays are that people shouldn't be drinking tap water unless it's filtered?
Look, it's a complex question in that if you're caught out somewhere, you're much better off having water than dehydrating. My message to people is whenever you can, as much as you can, you should be having some filtered water. And again, you know, we talked about chlorine, we talked about fluoride. There are so many other potential toxins in water, and I didn't even touch on pesticides, but again, 30 years ago, I did a project where we looked at the catchment areas for water, and we were asked to find out what pesticides they are using. And they had no idea. Nobody, no one in the authorities to this day, still don't, had any idea what was being used, when, where, how much was being used, and what were the byproducts. Because even if you use a pesticide, let's say a very typical one, chlorpyrifos, known as an organophosphate pesticide, it goes into the soil and then the microbes break it down and alter it, and over a 6-month period you've got a totally new range of products.
Really?
Straight away it starts happening, but you've got, and some of these may be more toxic than the original one. And that is, we don't know. And so we had to go back to the chemical company to say, what are the breakdown products going to be? And they said, we're not allowed to tell you.
Oh, really?
So there's all this stuff in the water that you don't even know about. Nobody in the authorities, nobody has any idea whatsoever what is going in the water. And in fact, there are cases where they won't even know what to monitor They don't know how to monitor it.
Yeah, I don't think that those things get monitored. We've had
don't.
conversations with the water board and stuff like that, and obviously the water board are under the impression that the water that's going out to humans and households is okay, so they're not even tested.
As long as people aren't lying on the streets dying and kicking the bucket, within a day or two of it, then it's kind of in a sense ignored. Now we do know it's causing damage. There is no doubt about it.
Yes.
The equation of how much then are the costs and benefits.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's getting older, in other words, anyone older than 25,
Yes.
they probably need to be considering this. In fact, even younger, obviously.
Right.
But looking at what's going in, because it has this long-term impact.
Yeah.
Not necessarily accumulation, but long-term impact on your health.
It'll just build up and
Well, it affects your different organs, your ability of your immune system. We know that we can go your liver is the main detoxification organ.
Yes.
And so your liver and the enzymes in that, presumably they're working on the right pH. Okay.
Right.
It has to detox them. Has to get rid of them, spit them out.
Yep.
And then it goes through in the blood around the body and into the kidneys and out the body and so on. So even if it is eliminated, the stress it puts on the liver, and have a look around, and all you've got to do is see the increase in the diseases such as non-alcoholic fatty liver.
Right. I guess briefly, I have been into some of these catchments where I live in the country. There's pine trees above the around those catchments and things like that. I'm aware of some issues on the east coast at the moment, and they do have the statistics of death rates in those communities and things like that, because all of the land above the catchment has now been hunted for deer, killing rabbits with baits, killing foxes with baits. All this sort of stuff's going on. And they're basically run by private companies, so I'm sure the government's got no idea what's going on there.
The baits and things are probably very small time, but compared to the pesticide use, it's a really simple equation. If it goes into the soil, it's going to go into the water. Because the water is the end part. It comes out there. During the floods over east, you saw that everything was just going in there, and it's going into the water. There is no way in places like Western Australia where there's a lot of groundwater. You put it on top. Where do you think it's going to go? And you can measure levels of DDT, which was banned back in the 60s, and heptachlor banned in the 80s. You can still measure the breakdown products of some of these in water. 30, 40 years on.
Still here today.
Yeah,
it's just not going away, is it?
No. So we know it gets in there.
Okay, look, that's brilliant. And I'll just step one back, because I'm not the biggest guy on RO systems, but if this stuff is in our water, people are probably going to be needing that to get them out. I'm a real big carbon person myself. Generally I'm on the rainwater, and the carbon will take the pesticides and stuff out of the water. But some of these ones are very nasty, and they probably do need to get an RO system to get that out, unfortunately. So that's where it's sort of a kicker for both ways, isn't it? We want the best water quality we had, but we need the filtration to get this garbage out.
We do need filtration at the end of the day, and that's what I'm not an expert on.
Well, we're trying to. It's a big topic. Okay. Look, that was a great one.
Well, look, I think the most critical thing is for people to realise how important water, hydration is. And it's no good getting really, really, really thirsty and then drinking huge amounts. Like I did in that basketball scenario, okay? You've got to consume the water when you get thirsty. And that doesn't mean you've got to walk around all day with a bottle. It's just trendy. I just can't understand jogging with a water bottle. And at the end of the day, though, you've got to keep hydrated. And hydration isn't just water. It's the minerals in water, but it's also the foods we eat. And many of the processed foods we eat are water deficient. So they're very dry foods rather than your fruits. Let's give you the best example, watermelon. It's called watermelon because you squash it and it's 99% water, and most of your fruit and veggies are 90% plus water, with all the minerals, all the beautiful minerals and biologicals in there that your body needs on a regular basis. And while your body needs it, just as important is your gut. Because nothing in your body. You can, by the way, alter your blood pressure by the amount of hydration. Interesting. Because if you're very dehydrated and your heart has to pump around a really thick, viscous blood, it's going to require a lot more pressure. And you know, everything in the body relies on water, but everything in the gut also relies on water, all your digestion. So if you want healthy digestion, have some water. And a lot of people, there are lots of myths, don't drink water with a meal. Rubbish.
Right.
I'm sorry, rubbish.
Right. Yeah, wash it
Oh,
down.
I'm thirsty. You drink it when you're thirsty.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, you don't want to just gulp, 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 gulp.
Right,
you know, because
right.
some people try to go on a diet, a water diet, along with their food. That doesn't. That's not, but again, the research shows you improve digestion. You eat less if you have it with a little bit of healthy liquid.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
that might be a cup of tea. It might be a
Yep.
coconut
Yep.
water. It might be some healthy water, rehydrated water, and so on. At the end of the day, and your gut needs it. Your mouth, I think, produces about 1.5 liters of saliva, liquid.
Okay.
You know, it's 99% water.
Yeah.
And so for the digestion, which occurs in the mouth, and protecting your mouth, you need water. Your stomach, a couple of liters.
Right.
And that's produced with the hydrochloric acid and the pepsin and some other things in there called chyme. And you know, that all runs on water.
Yeah.
So if you're not digesting, the first thing I tell people to do is how much you're drinking.
Right.
What are you drinking?
Right.
What food you eating? You're eating foods that are moist.
Yes.
Or you're having, you know, dry biscuits and dry bread and
Yeah.
dry rice and dry all these other things. No, you need the nuts, the seeds, the veggies, the herbs, the spices,
Yeah.
all of those,
All the
because
goodies.
not just nutrient rich, they're also got lots of water in them.
Yeah, right, right.
And they're also, by the way, got the right pH.
Yeah, the foods have,
The
right.
foods,
Yeah,
yeah,
nice.
absolutely. I try to get across to people that in the old days they used to tell people to have the greens
Yes.
to improve digestion, and the
Right.
greens are slightly acidic. And anyway, so coming back at your stomach, and of course one of the best things for constipation is water.
Yes.
Fundamental
Yeah,
principle.
Yeah.
Water gets everything moving through the digestive system.
Right.
And again, going into your microbiota, everyone knows the microbiome or biota, in your large intestine, that all runs on water. Survival of the microorganisms runs on the pH
Yep.
and the water.
Right.
So if you want to look after the gut
Yes.
and the gut microbiome,
Yep.
drink lots and lots of water.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And that should be showing up in the poops.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
They shouldn't be hard
Yeah.
and rock solid and little
Yeah.
little nuggets.
Yeah, yeah.
They need to, I won't go into the detail anyway,
Yeah,
they should
yeah.
be moist and
Yeah.
soft.
Toothpaste.
And yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. It's interesting when you talk there, because a year or two ago we did the Hydration Foundation course or event, okay? And in there was a lot of doctors involved, and not one of them had ever tested a patient that was 100% hydrated. They
Yeah.
were all dehydrated.
Yeah.
And what came out of that was basically they felt that at the top 5 issues or conditions treated for people that come in like that could all be solved with structured water. They don't need any tablets, they don't need any diets, they didn't need anything. All they needed to do was go home and consume good structured water.
Look, the healthy water is the fundamental principle.
Right.
You know, food you can do without with a month and you lose weight.
Yep.
You know, you can.
Yep, yep.
Water, it's daily.
You got to have it.
You know, you got to have it every single day, and you
Yeah,
need to
right.
keep replenishing it and replenishing it.
Yeah, very good. Nice. Thank you. There you go, folks. You don't get any better than that. I'm so super excited to have had a chat with this gentleman. He's a brilliant man and a great knowledge, and I hope you have a listen to this and share it to your friends and family, and get it out there and take care of your health as best you can. If we can help you with anything water related, just yell out. We're always here for you, and we'll do everything we can, and we'll always do our best by you and things like that. It's not just about selling a product, it's just about doing the right thing. So anything we can help you with, let us know. And to you, sir, very grateful.
That's a pleasure.
Thank you.